Y'all see my vampy look? Okay, look at these eyes. Look at these eyes. Now y'all can look at this. Imagine if I came here green-eyed and didn't explain myself to y'all. That's how Louis got to his mummy them house in Grace's face with green eyes, and she just, oh, it looks nice on you. Where did he get green eyes? Your brother is a vampire. Focus. I have to give y'all a look for the occasion, okay? First, OlurinattiPOP production. Now that I've got that out the way. I just finished watching season 2 of Interview with the Vampire, and I want y'all to know I needed 3 days just to calm down before I could talk to y'all, because Louis needs his ass beat. But not just Louis. Louis need his ass beat. Lestat need his ass beat. Armand need his ass beat. But look here. Come here. You come here. Come here. You the ones who told me, president of the Lestat Association and Anti-White Devil Brigade, that season 2 would change everything. That Lestat would be vindicated from dragging that black man by his neck and dropping him from the sky. You need your ass beat. Oh my God. I honestly, I'm gonna have to curse y'all clean the out later on, but that can wait, because we have so much ground to cover today as I walk y'all through the turbulence that is Interview with the Vampire to explain why Louis is a pick-me, Claudia deserved better, Lestat ain't shit, and Armand also ain't shit, because it's clear to me some of y'all asses are no better than Louis and seem to think that 2 ain't shit somehow cancels 1 out. Both them ain't shit. Listen to me and listen to me good. I don't give a what Anne Rice herself has to say about it. If you take all the vampire stuff out of this show and boil Interview with the Vampire down to the bare bone, it's a story about a black man whose abusive relationships cost him his relationship with his family. In fact, Interview with the Vampire is a cautionary tale about the dangers of being a pick-me. The life of Louis de Pontelac illustrates how being so hard up for romantic love and companionship and validation and dependent on romantic relationships to save you from your own unhappiness will not only leave you especially susceptible to abusive partners, but it also makes it impossible to truly be a good parent, no matter how much you love your children, because you choose your romantic partners and your romantic feelings over the well-being of your children and put them in danger. And that's really Louis' only true crime, being a pick-me to the detriment of his child, Claudia. Because while Louis will be getting cussed the to their trust, because that's what Claudia deserves, it's still important to remember that he is and will forever be, Lestat apologist, a victim who was preyed upon and manipulated and abused by 2 different, far older and more powerful vampires, one of whom is also the White Devil. So he's a victim, but he did make choices, and those choices didn't just cost him, and he did not pay the highest price. And although I still love Louis, it's important that we all remember right out the gate that the only sensible characters on this damn show, the only characters with any sense, named Claudia and Daniel Malloy. That's it, and that's all. And even Claudia wasn't making all too much sense this season. But we will talk about it. Before I get into season 2, if you didn't watch season 1 of Interview with the Vampire, or have never watched the show, or you need a recap, you're always free to watch my breakdown of each episode of season 1, but here's the quickest summary I can do to bring you up to speed. The show is called Interview with the Vampire because in the present, Daniel Malloy is interviewing the vampire Louis, and Louis is telling him the events of his past. Also important is that in 1973, when Daniel Malloy was a young man, he tried to interview Louis then, but it ended in Louis violently attacking him. But in the present, Malloy is old, ill, and don't have time for Louis' shit, and he's a straight shooter, so we love Daniel Malloy. So, sometime around 1910, our protagonist and head in charge, Louis de Pontelac, was a black Creole man living in New Orleans with his bitch-ass mama, his sister Grace, and his brother Paul. Louis' father died and left Louis the estate and all the debt, so Louis had to start pimping and take care of the family. And despite his bitch-ass mama judging him for the job and the fact that they all suspected he was gay, she ain't had no problem taking his money. Now, because Louis was in the closet, he would go to these white people brothel to kick it with this one black escort, Miss Lily, just so he could see him straight to the public, you know, for cover. Time he was never that woman. He was doing nothing with Miss Lily other than talking to her across the room, because Louis don't like no bitches, okay? Anyhow, when Louis goes to see Miss Lily one day, he's also met by the White Devil, vampire ass, Lestat in court. And they both start kind of bidding over Miss Lily, doing their little dick measuring contest. Whole time, they want each other. Anyway, from there, Louis and Lestat start hanging out, even though Louis keep playing straight. And when they be hanging out, Lestat be speaking telepathically to Louis in freezing time, little piece, and doing all kind of White Devil shit. And Louis' silly ass over there watching it like, ooh, look at his little tricks.
Man, what the fuck?
Louis eventually decides to bring the White Devil to his good Christian black household and scares the actual out of his brother Paul, because Paul is already very religious and he hears voices. So the super anti-Satan and probably a little homophobic like his whole family too. So imagine his surprise when the white gay devil show up at the table. Paul was obviously not feeling that. So the white devil takes offense and decides to enter Paul's mind and do God knows what to Paul. And Louis only tells him to stop his tricks. But does Louis stop frolicking with the white devil? No, he does not. In fact, he let the white devil swing him into in his lair under the guise of coming up there to see Miss Lily. The next thing you know though, Louis' brother Paul, conveniently after Lestat was with his brain at the dinner table, offs himself in front of Louis right after Grace's wedding.
I really miss my nigga. I really miss my nigga. White people you can sing it to, just change that into a W. Miss my wigger.
So then, not only is Louis down a brother and depressed, his bitch ass mama blaming him for no reason, so he obviously had no interest in the white devil no more. So then, the white devil takes that opportunity to run him down at his brother's funeral, screaming and hollering, but why you ghost him? Then, when Louis rightfully decides he needs Jesus and runs to the church to beg God to get the white devil away from him, the white devil enters the church, violently murders the priest, then demands a traumatized Louis, cowering in fear on the church altar, agree to let him murder him and be his man for the rest of eternity. Oh my God. And Louis says yes, because what the else was he gonna say to the white devil? He just saw a massacre the priest. Thus begins the first abusive relationship Louis ass gonna be in. The speed run of their relationship and the rest of season 1 is this. Lestat made Louis his immortal partner, only to still cheat on him with bitches, Antoinette specifically. Louis killed a white supremacist, so the white supremacist burned the black part of the town down, which almost killed a young girl named Claudia, that Louis then saved, forced Lestat to make a vampire, and then she becomes their daughter that Louis loves to death, but Lestat deeply resents because he doesn't want Louis to have anyone in his life but him, which is why he wanted to isolate him from his family. It's why he killed Miss Lily for no reason, and I don't give a what anyone says, and yes, that includes Anne Rice. It is not a coincidence that Paul just dies, okay? Paul and Miss Lily get taken out at the same time that Lestat is on a vengeance to isolate Louis from people. Okay, sure. Anyhow, Lestat mistreats Claudia. Louis loves her. Claudia runs away. She's also raped by another vampire while she's gone. Louis is depressed the whole time Claudia is gone. Lestat continues to cheat. Claudia eventually returns and wants to take Louis with her. Lestat beats Louis to a bloody pulp and drops him from the sky. Louis and Claudia on their own for a while. Lestat returns and eventually Louis caves because he's a battered wife in an abusive relationship. Lestat agrees to not be evil and trifling no more and to not keep secrets and to kill his side bitch Antoinette. Lestat is on his best behavior for all of 2 seconds before we realize he's still cheating and lying. Then Claudia goes to leave again with Louis' blessing this time, but Lestat don't want to risk Louis getting depressed again. So he drags Claudia back by murdering everyone on her train and bringing up the fact that she was raped to weaponize against her. Then he starts ruling over Claudia and Louis like their master. So Claudia rightfully decides she's gonna kill Lestat. Louis is supposed to be in the plan. Claudia did manage to get the drop on Lestat and she kills both him and his side bitch that he thought that they believed that he killed, but he'd actually turned into a vampire. But instead of finishing off Lestat like they intended by burning him, pussy-ass Louis stops her from burning him and throws him in a dump yard because he wanted to leave the possibility that Lestat would survive, which Daniel Malloy, the human man actually conducting the interview with the vampire Louis in the present, peeps immediately when Louis initially tried to lie and tell him that neither he and Claudia could bring themselves to burn Lestat. But Malloy called bullshit immediate because Claudia is a cold bitch who hates Lestat, don't around, and had just written his last words in his own blood. So he knew it was pussy-ass Louis. So he calls him on it, at which point the pretending to be Louis' assistant or something the whole season starts floating and announcing that he's a vampire named Armand and he and Louis go together. Okay, now let's talk season 2. Lestat apologizes. This is gonna be a rough video for y'all later on, but what I will give you, so take this little breadcrumb and make it last, child, because it's all you gonna get. But what I will give you is that the first episode that Lestat wasn't in, I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm bored. Bring the white devil back. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I was relieved when we started hallucinating Lestat and we started getting some flashbacks. I said, woo, child, because the girl was bored. Okay, he's Satan, but he also brings the drama. That's all you could get. That's all you could get. Take it. Anyway, season 2 begins with Louis and Claudia in Europe desperately searching for other vampires because Claudia wants so badly to be with her own. She wants to be with other vampires so bad that when she comes across a literal Walking Dead zombie vampire straight out of hell. My girl is gleeful and inviting the Walking Dead to travel with her and Louis. Thank God that zombie vampire bitch did us all a favor and jumped in the fire. Praise God. I was so scared, like, please don't have us around these ugly, scary looking vampires all season. Now, here's what's important about this period of time. Claudia is quite literally not speaking to Louis. She is so angry with him for not burning Lestat that she literally will not talk to him despite traveling around the world with him. Now, let's break down why she's so mad again, because it's central to understanding why Claudia and Louis don't make a lick of sense this season. The unspoken but universally understood reason Claudia is so mad with Louis for not burning Lestat is because it means Lestat might survive. And why would it be such a bad thing? So worth being angry at Louis for? Because if Lestat survives, you mother up shit creek without a paddle. Now let me tell you why that's so important. Louis and Claudia make their way to Paris, you know, where Lestat is from, where Louis is so happy because he ran the place playing amateur photographer, and Claudia isn't happy until they meet Armand, and then Armand's vampire coven of lethal theater nerds. When we're introduced to Armand, it's brought to our attention that Armand had been watching Louis and Claudia for months, waiting for them to present themselves to the coven, because these are gang. Can't no vampire step in Paris without checking in with them, or the whole gang descends on you, crippin' ass vampires. Meanwhile, Louis and Claudia don't know any other vampires, let alone that you are an established gang of vampires who have to perform theater plays for the rest of eternity and follow corny ass rules or be killed. So, Armand eventually has no choice but to roll up on Louis and introduce himself, and also because he was just into Louis the moment he saw him, and then he invited Louis and Claudia to meet the coven and see their play. Now, here's my thing. They go to the play and so many things immediately stand out. First of all, my spidey senses for y'all in danger started tickling the minute we met CVS Lestat, Santiago. I said, so we in Paris, where Lestat from? The stage is an ugly Lestat knockoff, and I'm not seeing a rival vampire coven gang. What are the odds that Lestat don't know the only coven in this city? But do Louis and Claudia ask themselves these poignant questions? No, because Claudia too busy watching this twisted evil play where the vampires murdering innocent people on stage that are begging for their lives because the dumbass humans in the audience think it's a play. And Claudia there, a kiki, laughing her ass off. And only me and Louis over there like, only us have the good sense to be sitting there like, what the is this? But Louis and Armand already been making eyes at this point, so you know that Louis becomes dumb the minute a man come around, and he too busy also hallucinating Lestat in the room all season because he's still pressed for him. So Louis not no help is what the I'm saying. And Claudia is apparently so pressed to be around other vampires that she completely vacates all the many senses we saw last season. Let's actually take a moment to talk about this season's Claudia right quick, because as a Claudia stan in season 1, I ain't gonna lie, I was disappointed, and I know all y'all told me I was gonna love this Claudia just as much and stuff. I don't. I'm not blaming that on the acting. I'm blaming that on the writing. Probably blaming it on Anne Rice, okay? Because last season, we quite literally watched Claudia evolve from an impulsive, reckless teenager to a shrewd, resolute, calculated, sharp, careful, cunning woman that is 10 steps ahead of everyone. So much, in fact, that she was able to best Lestat and would have finished him off if it weren't for pussy-ass, meddling-ass Louis. But somehow this season, in addition to the character being played by an entirely new actress, she somehow completely devolved back to being a 14-year-old child, upset about being turned into a vampire as a girl, and so desperate to be accepted into a group, she completely forgets to even consider the thought that Lestat might be alive and thus a threat to them, and decides to make her and Louis sitting ducks by joining Lestat's coven after she already see his picture on the wall and knock off Lestat has already announced to her that they worship the ground Lestat walks on. Bitch, what the And another thing, the same Claudia that was incredibly conscious of race and racism and that saw Lestat as the white devil slave master he was, vampire or not, somehow is so pressed to be down with a gang that she willingly subjugates herself to this coven of other white devils, talking down to her and having her do grunt work just so she could join? I don't know, babe. It just not adding up to me. Even with Claudia wanting to know other vampires, to me, it's just not consistent with the shrewd Claudia that wanted to be 10 steps ahead of Lestat, that's mad about the fact that Lestat is still alive, and that should be cautious about other vampires, considering that the first vampire she met outside of Louis and Lestat essayed her. This season's Claudia felt like an entirely different character to me, and I just did not love her the same way I loved season 1's Claudia. That being said, I'm still firmly in my girls' camp and determined to get justice for her. I still think the actress herself had a good performance nonetheless. Anyway, Claudia decides to join the coven and Louis refuses. But remember I told y'all, it's a gang, so you can't refuse, that's not allowed. And all the other vampires in the coven are mad as that Armand isn't making Louis join the gang. mainly Rite Aid Lestat, because when his maker didn't get in line with a rule, Armand killed him per coven rules. So this coven demands that Armand kill Louis on the same night they induct Claudia into the coven. These some cold you know. But when Armand goes to kill Louis, he can't bring himself to do it because Louis offers him some dick. Louis offers him some dick in exchange for his life. So they start a situationship as far as Louis is concerned and a marriage as far as Armand is concerned. Now, let's stop right there to talk about Louis' poor fathership and just being a dumb bitch in general. Let's analyze the moment. Bring Louis on the screen so I could talk to Louis' ass directly. Louis,
yeah.
Forget the fact that Armand didn't kill you because of some dick.
Okay.
His plan was to kill you. You know now that he and his coven were prepared to murder you and do what to your daughter after. Why would you not offer him some dick to save your life in the moment, then get your daughter and get the from around there?
Okay.
What would make you think it's safe to keep kicking it with them? But Louis is a dumb motherfucker. And that's central to why Armand isn't going to get the lashes from me this video that some might expect, because the problem ain't so much Armand to me, as much as the problem is that Louis don't got no sense. Armand told Louis repeatedly to get the out of Paris. He told him to learn how to block his thoughts better, that the coven could be dangerous, and that shit could get hectic if he didn't join the coven. But this Louis was just like, nah, I'm not joining. And I'm also not leaving Paris.
Nah, I'ma do my own thing.
Anyway, but we're gonna talk about Armand in depth later. What I just can't understand is why the Claudia thought shit was so sweet. What about a bunch of much older, much stronger, united vampires who studied under the White Devil's leadership was giving you should play with them? What about that seems safe? But they ain't focused because Louis is caught up in Armand and Claudia is desperate for a coven. So Louis and Armand are dating while the coven is openly angry about it. Then Claudia becomes the star of the play, which also makes the coven, specifically Timu Lestat, very openly angry. But still, Louis and Claudia keep moving like shit is sweet. And they get even less mindful when Claudia meets Madeline. Now, let's talk about Madeline. Let me start by saying, I f***ed Madeline the long way. She was honestly a hard-ass white woman, and I think a worthy match for Claudia. Although I can't say I understand why these black vampires living in a time of intense racial subjugation in both their mortal and immortal lives keep picking them up white people. But whatever, child, whatever, because Madeline cool. Madeline is a dressmaker who the whole town ostracizes because she f***ed a German soldier one time who she felt bad for because he was young and afraid and it was the wartime and they were all suffering. And my girl just wanted a little fleeting moment of joy when death was all around her. So anyhow, the townspeople be calling her a Nazi and a whore child. They be drawing swastikas on her shop window daily and things. It was very beginning of Beauty and the Beast if the townspeople committed hate crimes off the rip. Claudia just kind of takes to Madeline off the rip because Madeline rude and sassy, and they have a little banter after Claudia goes in her shop wanting this lavender dress, and Madeline was calling her all kinds of flat-chested little girl. I also extra Madeline because when Claudia invited her to watch the covens play, Madeline very much peeped that it was scary trash, okay? She has sense. But remember, I told y'all, the townspeople stay hate crime in Madeline. So on their regular daily stroll to taunt and swastika her store, she gets upset and she throws an iron or something through her glass at them. And when the glass breaks, these criminals come through her window and immediately they try to rape her. And it's this white woman leading these two white men to rape her. But let me tell y'all something. They thought Claudia show up and she slaughtered them, and I was living for it, okay? I also think it's really special that this is the start of Madeline and Claudia's relationship and Madeline learning what Claudia is, because Claudia was raped last season and there was no one to save her, but Claudia was able to save Madeline. So I said it to say I love them. We stan Claudia and Madeline on this channel. But you know who don't stan them? That ass gang Claudia joined. Remember I told y'all that the Ivory Demon dead jealous of Louis and Claudia? So he all in the back plotting on them, piecing two and two together about the stat being their real maker and plotting to take over the coven. And while he busy plotting his Claudia and Louis are both too busy laying up with woman and man respectively to realize shit getting sticky. Even though I want to remind y'all, Armand been telling Louis that them and antsy about him not being in the coven, not going to their plays and shit, but they ain't perceiving them as a threat. Although Claudia did realize that she just don't with the coven no more. Because even though she was the star of the plays, not only was the rest of the coven jealous haters, Claudia hated playing the role because they intentionally made her play a baby in the play for the rest of eternity because they trying to play on her insecurities of being turned as a child because they're really evil bastards trying to force a self-fulfilling prophecy on her. Like, they was literally trying to force Claudia to kill herself because they keep saying to Louis that she will eventually off herself because he shouldn't have turned her as a child. But they the ones who keep trying to force that to be an issue and to psychologically distress her about it. So Claudia voices to Armand that she doesn't want to play the character anymore. It forces her to live out her trauma every night. So you know what Armand does? He forces her to wear her costume every second of every day to become the character. He made her live her trauma every second of every day. And that's some wicked shit. But does it make me mad at Armand? No. Armand is not her daddy. He's the leader of a dangerous coven that's becoming increasingly more agitated with his leadership because they feel he's giving these two outsiders special treatment. So his behavior makes sense. He is trying to keep the peace and save his own ass by coming down hard on her. Who I am mad at is her father, Louis, who is sitting right there when Armand doles this punishment out, and he merely shrugs his shoulders at her while she's forced to do something Louis knows is destructive to her mental health. It's Louis' job to protect his child, something he hasn't been doing since the moment he didn't make sure Lestat was done off and decided to keep them in a dangerous situation in Paris. It isn't until when they're arguing about something else that Louis even mentions to Armand that he didn't like him doing that to Claudia. But because of how they were treating her in the coven, it should come as no surprise that Claudia decides that she wants Madeline to become a vampire so they can just leave and live their own life. Remember, all Claudia ever wanted was a companion like what she perceived Louis and Lestat as having in each other, dysfunctional or not. She tried to find that companionship in the coven, but she actually found it in Madeline. So she goes to Louis to ask him to ask Armand to turn Madeline into a vampire. So Louis asks Armand, and Armand claims that he can't do it because he doesn't know how. But the real tea is he just simply doesn't give a fuck about Claudia's happiness. And if we keep it really real, like Lestat before him, he perceived Claudia as competition for Louis' love that he wants all to himself. So he was always preying on Claudia's downfall, if you ask me. But much to Louis' dumbass surprise, Armand refuses to turn Madeline for Claudia, so Louis has to do it himself. He successfully turns Madeline, and she and Claudia were happy as together for all of 0.5 seconds till the coven snatches Claudia, Madeline, and Louis to up and puts them on trial for Lestat's murder because Armand sold them out. Okay, now I'm about to get mad. Let's discuss the trial. Big shocker, the Lestat they didn't burn because Louis wanted him to survived, and he traveled to Europe to the coven they know worships him to not only get them killed, but to rewrite he and Louis' relationship to paint himself as the victim. Dog, if I could have screamed, where do I begin? I have so many things to scream about. The lawyer in me was raging this episode. Like, I ain't lying to y'all. It really took me 3 days to even finish watching it. Because I promise y'all, I knew I could just feel the bullshit. I fast forward to see what the happened to Claudia. That run me so hard, it took me 3 days to watch it. Then, after I watched it, it took me another 3 days to get my blood pressure down to write this video. I was so mad. Before I even really get started on this sham of a trial, let me ask this. We don't got no jurisdiction in vampire land? How the you want to prosecute New Orleans vampires in Paris for breaking the rules of a Paris vampire coven they didn't even know existed, let alone belong to or consent to following the rules of? Dog. Then these start this sham of a trial by saying they're charged with killing Lestat and Antoinette. Not Antoinette. Not Antoinette. Who the care about that bitch? And also, why the Madeline on trial? She quite literally has done nothing to anybody. She has nothing to do with any of this shit. All she did is love a black woman. This Santiago broke into Louis and Claudia's apartment to steal all of Claudia's vampire diaries to use it against them for this trial. And we ain't even about to talk about how Claudia ain't noticed her million diaries were missing. Like, dog, like father, like daughter. I tell you, she was caught up with her girlfriend. So Santiago is up there like the second-rate Satan he is, distorting all of Claudia and Louis' life stories to make them out to be the villains. They slashed their ankles so they couldn't move. They used their powers to distort their memories and torture them so they couldn't adequately defend themselves, while an audience of idiot humans laughed at them because they think they're watching a play. Then, second-rate Satan brought out the white devil himself. And let's stop right there for a minute, because Lestat is live and on stage, so I had a prosecuting him for murdering him, and he right there. And not only did they bring Lestat out, he came on the stage, stood around for his round of applause like he was Michael Jackson. And I'm like, ain't this the same stat that fled and abandoned y'all's bitch ass coven never to be heard again after putting some dick on Armand and obviously deciding the dick wasn't all that? This who y'all riding for? Lestat brought his ass out there, swore on Claudia's diary, and said he wants justice for his attempted murder. dog if I curse. And Malloy felt just like me hearing this in the present because he pointed out to Louis, so your new man sold you out to your ex-man and got you and your child hemmed up in this brutal ass trial. That's what you telling me? And you sitting next to him. Oh, okay. And do you believe pick me ass Louis starts trying to cape for Armand? This man really fixed his mouth to tell Malloy, oh, but Armand was held captive in the box too and forced to watch his trial against his will, and he spent the entire performance calculating a way to save me. This mother Louis is so up. Louis quite literally never uses his noggin. Not a shred of common sense in there. Just pretty, head empty. At the bare minimum knowledge, you know that Armand sold you out ahead of time. So why would it make sense that Armand, who knew what the was gonna go down in advance, because again, he sold you out, would just now be thinking of a way to save you in the middle of the trial? That makes sense? That makes sense, Louis? This stupid motherfucker. Anyway, back to the trial, because I hate this Lestat more than ever before. Lestat, the same white vampire Lestat who hunted human black Louis down in the Jim Crow South and murdered the priest that Louis was begging to keep him safe from so that he could kill him and force him to be his immortal companion, got up on that stage and said that human Louis was stalking him and running him down. If I cuss, that was the sickest gaslighting I ever seen in my life. Then he painted Louis being sad about being murdered and turned into a vampire and losing his family all in one night, as Louis being a villain for being, quote, fixated on the loss of humanity. Oh my God. This literally said Louis was deceptively agile with his words, the trenchant form of verbal abuse. There was a night he told me I'd be alone forever. Oh, boo, dog, if I spit. Listen, what makes me so angry about Lestat apologists is that Lestat is a textbook abuser. So it makes no sense the pretzels y'all be twisting yourselves in to defend this mother. It is textbook abuser to paint your victim out as the abuser for wanting to leave. Really painting Louis out like he's a criminal for ever even considering leaving the white devil. Like it's not people's right to exit relationships that they want. Like God forbid this black man have free will. I swear to my God, these mother sat on stage and said the worst pain imaginable is to be lonely as a vampire. And that Louis was a abuser for making him lonely because Louis was such a villain for threatening to leave him if he didn't turn Claudia. Oh my God. And before I even unpack that, let me first mention that Lestat tells the story of turning Claudia as though Louis just randomly decided to be destructive in humans' business and kill someone for no particular reason, which caused the fire that killed Claudia's family and almost all. Let me tell y'all something. To the side apologists who be glossing over how this white man gives it up, how many times did Louis painstakingly explain to Lestat the racism he was subjected to in New Orleans? Not like Lestat wasn't witnessing it and actively aware of exactly how it worked. Because the first thing Lestat even said to Louis when he met him at the white brothel was, who the let your black ass through the door? And he was always hyped to take Louis to the racist opera house he know Louis didn't want to be at, because Lestat would make him pretend to be his servant to be in there, despite how he knew how it made Louis feel. Yet, Lestat sat up there at this trial he helped orchestrate to get his ex-husband and daughter killed, and intentionally left out that Louis didn't kill some random nobody for no reason. He killed a racist white man who had been treating him like shit in both his life and his afterlife. Yo, Lestat. But Armand too. Because while Louis is telling this part of the story, Armand gonna try to take this moment to take the heat off his part. So he starts trying to focus on how Lestat ain't shit. Talking about, oh, Lestat's so wicked for twisting up Louis' life story to make himself the victim. And me and Malloy was both listening to this bunch of bullshit. Like, if you don't shut the up, Armand, before I slap you. Anyway, so Lestat tells the audience that Louis is a monster because he desperately pleaded with him to save Claudia and to make her their daughter. And Lestat says he told Louis that the great laws forbid him from turning Claudia and she would struggle if he changed her that young, but that Louis wouldn't listen. He was there snot crying, pleading with him to save Claudia. And let me tell y'all something. Do you think I give a if Lestat told him, oh, the great laws forbid it, and he still insisted? Was that supposed to make Louis a villain? Up until this point, Lestat ain't never mentioned the great laws or so much as another vampire. He picks when Louis is literally in distress because he's trying to save a little black girl who he's scared is going to die as an unintended consequence for Louis for one time standing up to a white supremacist tormentor in his life. He picks that moment to tell him about some great laws forbid it. What the do you think those words meant to Louis in that moment? Nothing. He don't know nothing but no great thoughts? Nothing. I'm supposed to take him as a villain because he was overwhelmed with emotion and wanted to save a child? Dog, if y'all don't off and eat a dick. And another thing, if it's against the great laws to turn a child into a vampire, why the isn't the white devil who changed him on trial? And for the Lestat apologists who about to go, but Lestat said that when you sentence them for their crimes, you sentence me too. If y'all don't suck my dick and lick my balls from the back, they are literally acting out a rehearsed play that is strictly the prosecution and murder of Louis and Claudia. Lestat knows good and well that they're not going to punish him. That is talking a bunch of for you pussies to eat up. Notice how when he says that and Santiago responds with, oh, no, but they manipulated you to do it, Lestat. Lestat doesn't insist they prosecute him. He doesn't go join them on the bench. He continues helping them put the nail in their coffin. And speaking of Santiago and white men who ain't being prosecuted for their crimes, Santiago literally told Claudia early in the seasons that he be breaking them laws and humans all the time. And you know who else be breaking the rules? Lestat. The same Lestat who was Louis as a human and Antoinette. And then, in the present day, as Louis telling this part of the story to Malloy, he'd have the nerve to be all torn up because he claims that at the time, he felt like Lestat was lying and didn't warn him life would be tough for Claudia, but he now realizes Lestat was right and he did warn him. And I'm just like, again, who gives an actual That changes nothing. It does not suddenly make Louis a villain or Lestat a victim, that he didn't process the magnitude of something he barely knew about in the middle of his trauma. And me and Malloy both understand that, but not Louis, dumbass. Anyway, back to the trial. Lestat is up there trying to paint Louis as a villain for being depressed his daughter is gone and leaving him lonely. And then he fixes his mouth to blame Louis' depression when Claudia left for why he was cheating with Antoinette. Like Lestat wasn't cheating with Antoinette from time, dog. Again, if I spit. Now, let's talk about how Lestat tells the story of him trying to kill Louis, because I actually think Lestat apologists are sickos. I think y'all are sickos. Yes, y'all are sickos. I cannot believe that y'all were trying to tell me last season that season 2 would completely change that fight for me. What? Even in Lestat's version of the fight, Louis is first fighting Lestat because Lestat choked their daughter. Louis literally says this while he's fighting Lestat, that he put his hands on their daughter, which is why Louis starts fighting him to defend their daughter. Then Lestat threatens that he'll use his full strength, and then he beats Louis to a pulp and dragged him by his neck in the Jim Crow South and dropped him from the sky. Are y'all good? That's what the y'all thought was gonna change something? That Louis defended his daughter from her abusive father and then promptly almost got killed by that abusive father? That's what y'all thought was gonna absolve Lestat? Oh my God. Oh my God. Just say y'all like him because y'all think he cute and he brings the drama, but don't defend this getting tired. These are the things y'all think makes Louis an unreliable narrator. I honestly could slap the shit out of all y'all if I couldn't. Me and you, why I oughta. And then, after telling the story of how Lestat dropped Louis from the sky, causing him to shatter all his bones, Santiago bitch ass gonna start actively downplaying Lestat dropping him from the sky, trying to make the audience believe getting dropped out of the ozone layer, small things. Ain't that something? That's small things. But whatever they did to Lestat, who lied in small things. And let me just tell y'all something. Y'all Lestat apologists just as dumb as the audience watching this sham trial, because I bet y'all think that Lestat is a good guy, because when Santiago tries to downplay Lestat dropping him from the sky, Lestat tries to pump fake like he taking accountability for doing that to Louis, and he acts like he apologizing to Louis from the bottom of his heart and saying he didn't deserve Louis' forgiveness back then for that. He tries to act like he having some realization that this is so wrong that Santiago is downplaying this part. He whispers some shit to himself like, oh, this is like congratulating a wolf for not killing his pups. But I want to remind y'all, Lestat came across the ocean in a coffin to be a part of this. This ain't a play. Lestat is not realizing anything on the fly. This is not a surprise. This is a script. Lestat has been rehearsing this play with them. He is in on the downplaying of the abuse and the intended murder of Louis and Claudia, or at least Claudia. Lestat isn't taking any true accountability for abusing Louis. It's a tactic where you appear to take accountability for / concede a few things to make your other lies seem more legitimate. So that people think, oh, well, he owns something horrible, so why would he lie about the rest? I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. I know a tactic of persuasion when if I curse, it is infuriating to me that y'all eating up this stupid shit. Lestat literally just told y'all and the audience in the theater moments before that the greatest pain there is vampire loneliness, which Louis the abuser subjected him to. He didn't say the greatest pain is dropping from the sky and shattering its bones. He said it was vampire loneliness. So you believe the same Lestat that even back when he actually did that to Louis, turned up at his house talking about, oh, you know, it's really cruel, Louis, that you won't talk to me. That's cruel. Y'all believe that he thinks that it was truly unforgivable that he tried to kill Louis by dropping him from the sky when he is now in Paris helping kill Louis and their daughter for how they finally decided to defend themselves against Lestat's abuse? I should bitch slap all y'all. And Claudia felt the same way because she literally screamed out, this tried to kill Louis, but he's not on trial for murder or attempted murder. Yet they're on trial for murdering Lestat when Lestat is not dead. Why is it okay for Lestat to almost kill Louis, but not the other way around?
These white men are dangerous.
After all the times Louis described to Lestat the gruesome ways the white people would torture the slaves in New Orleans, Lestat is sitting up there having facilitated these white vampires, literally brutally beating and torturing them, slashing their ankles and subjecting them to a public execution to a room full of laughing white people. And y'all thought I was gonna watch this and feel differently about Lestat? Then Santiago's bitch ass gives Madeline the opportunity to live if she denounces Claudia and joins the coven. And Claudia told her to do that, but Madeline is a real ass bitch and refused to denounce Claudia and instead declared that Claudia is her lifelong companion. So they sentenced Madeline to death for absolutely no reason. Then Claudia gets up and they sentence her to death, and she declares to the room that she'll come back in the next life and kill every mother in that room. And then Louis gets up and somehow, he doesn't get sentenced to death. The audience instead sentences him to banishment. So they drag Louis away. Then they open the roof to the sun on Madeline and Claudia and they burn to death. While Lestat sit right there and watch it happen.
I really miss my nigga. I really miss my nigga. White people you can sing it to, just change that into a W. Miss my wigger.
Dog, I can't even begin to tell you how sick I was. How fucking sick I am. So Louis didn't get killed outright, but they put him in a tomb to starve to death. Eventually, Armand lets Louis out the tomb and telepathically tells him to leave Paris. But Louis said, how about I kill every last one of you and get everybody back in blood? And that's what the does. When I tell you, Louis goes and he kills every in that coven except Armand, Lestat, and then to write the players. I think he named Sam. He blew the whole theater up, decapitate Santiago, ran through that bitch like the Tomb Raider. Now here's what pisses me the off, like the actual off. Instead of tearing Armand and Lestat's heads off their body, Louis decides that Lestat's punishment for getting their daughter killed is going to be Louis spending the rest of eternity with Armand, the who sold him the out and got his daughter killed. Because Armand told Louis that he saved him in the theater by getting the audience to banish him instead, and that he didn't have enough strength to save Claudia. Dog, let me tell y'all something. Louis is one ass, and if I could slap some sense into Louis' empty head, I would. Lestat punishment for getting your daughter killed is to kiss a next who helped him do it in front of him?
Huh?
Is this real life? You gonna spend the next 77 years with a got your daughter killed to spite another who got your daughter killed. Louis is a piece of shit father. His love ain't worth shit, because what did it get Claudia? And what's even worse is, not only did that already not make any sense, Armand did not save Louis. And in 77 years, Louis ain't put two and two together. Oh my God. But Malloy put it together in the present because some, I don't know, CIA who's stalking Louis and the vampires, I guess, I don't know, sent him the play of the trial where all Armand's notes are in the margins. This Armand didn't just blow the cover on them. He was directing the play to kill Louis and Claudia. This was in the rehearsals with Lestat and the coven, plotting Louis' downfall. So Malloy says, think dummy, Lestat saved you. And he reminds Louis of the time Lestat used the same power to get all the soldiers out their house in New Orleans. Then, because you know Louis a dumbass who need convincing, Malloy gives Louis the script and tells him, hey, the script right time y'all didn't kill, he held on to this and he gave it to someone who gave it to me. So Louis looked through it and sure enough, there are Armand's notes. So he flips shit on Armand because he now knows Armand is a liar. So he breaks up with him, tells him to get out their home and not to harm Malloy, and he leaves. Now here's what don't make no sense. Oh my God, I cannot stand Louis. Yeah, that's my I can't stand him. Finding out Armand ain't shit does not change the fact that Lestat ain't shit either. Who gives a if Lestat saved you? You know who he didn't save? Your daughter because he always wanted her dead. That was the plan. He resented Louis' love of her. What he always wanted was to isolate Louis. Remember, at the end of season 1, Lestat doesn't want to kill Louis when he exposes that he knew Louis and Claudia were plotting to kill him. He specifically tells Louis they should kill Claudia and replace her with Antoinette because Antoinette would be much more amenable to their lifestyle. It is completely consistent with the same white devil we've been knew from season 1 that he would want to save Louis and kill Claudia, their daughter. That was his plan. So why should I or Louis give a or feel any kind of way that Lestat helped plan his and their daughter's murder but only decided to save him? But somehow, to Louis, an eternal pick-me who seemed to think only 2 romantic partners are available to him in the world, this new information somehow makes Lestat deserving of an apology or a thank you of some sort. So Louis leaves the house with crazy-ass vampire Armand and human-ass Malloy to just cause crazy-ass Armand to get dumped in the home together, like that's not a recipe for disaster, and heads all the way to New Orleans to see Lestat. So Louis gets to New Orleans where Lestat is living in squalor, acting like he's been so depressed all this time because he can't get over the look in Claudia's eyes when she died because she turned to him like a child wanting her daddy to save her. And did he save her? Did he save her? Did Lestat jump up and push her out of the sun? Did he try to do anything to help her? No, because he didn't give a That was his plan. He ever knew he was gonna save Louis and let Claudia die because that's what he always wanted. And Louis there, but, oh, Lestat, how come you didn't tell me that you saved me? Because it wasn't some noble act. He wanted your daughter dead. The whole thing was a way to get your daughter dead so he could isolate you. He didn't know you was gonna be there dick sprung off Armand with your stupid ass. I cannot begin to express to y'all how unmoved I was by this little visit between Lestat and Louis. I'm supposed to feel for this Lestat? He consciously got his daughter killed, but I'm supposed to believe he's tortured by the look in her eyes. Did he give a about the pain in her eyes when she sobbed over the body of her first love and he taunted her? Did he give a about the pain in her eyes when she cowered in a train while he threatened her life and weaponized her rape against her? Was she his daughter then? Did he care about the pain in her eyes? Y'all and Lestat. Not only does he not give a about Claudia and never did, y'all would never convince me that his love for Louis means shit when even if he didn't love Claudia, he knew how much Louis did. In his mind, in Lestat's mind, Louis couldn't live without Claudia. That's the whole reason he dragged off the train in season 1 when Louis gave her the blessing to go, because Lestat said he knew Louis couldn't survive without her. Getting Claudia killed was tantamount to killing Louis, and Lestat knew that. So why the should we care that he saved Louis? Dog, I cannot begin to tell y'all how deeply I'm not on Lestat's run or this little reunion. And speaking of runs I'm not on, let's finally talk about Armand. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I don't even hate Armand on a personal level, you know. I actually kind of like him for real. But Louis should hate Armand with a passion, and that's my issue with Louis being a weak bitch. But as far as Armand goes, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, most of what Armand did made perfect sense to me. Listen to this, from Armand's perspective, Armand is a 500-year-old vampire in Lestat's sloppy seconds that Louis decided to on. From Armand's perspective, he was running his coven for what, hundreds of years when he met a guy he thought was cute, told that guy a million times it wasn't particularly safe for him there and that he needed to either join the coven or leave Paris. And said guy refused to listen to him until eventually the coven tells Armand it's either his own life or the been for all of 2 seconds by comparison to vampire life and his daughter. So Armand chose his own life. I don't have to like it, but Armand's decisions made perfect sense. I wasn't gonna die for no for 2 seconds. I've been around 500 years and I could die for some dick, no sir. So that part isn't what makes Armand really to me. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all, even Armand letting Louis out the crypt where he was banished to die from starvation and then lying and telling him he saved him in the trial made sense to me too, because Louis was massacring every mother that crossed him. It made perfect sense to say the only thing that could have saved his life. And one could make the case that it was more for Lestat to consciously choose to get Claudia killed and save Louis when he knew life wouldn't be worth living without her to Louis than it was for Armand to choose to let them both die rather than save Louis and let Claudia die knowing how much she means to him. One could make that argument, but I think I'll be giving Armand way too much credit for 2 reasons. The first reason being that if Armand really loved Louis, he could have given him the heads up so he could flee. Instead, he was directing the play and doing rehearsals for Louis' death. And two, if not sparing either Louis or Claudia was about Armand being selfless and recognizing that it would be harder for Louis to live life without Claudia, he wouldn't have stopped Louis from offing himself in 1973 when Louis was explicitly wanting to die because he was in so much pain from losing Claudia. Armand's not that selfless. Armand is selfish. He wants Louis alive for him. So ultimately, I think Armand just cares more about himself than Louis, period. Which is why what really makes Armand cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs is then choosing to spend the next 77 years with Louis, acting like some kind of tortured lover and lying to him every day is what's crazy, okay? Like, what is wrong with you? In season 2, we learned that in 1973 when Louis first met young Daniel Malloy, Louis had bugged out and tried to kill Malloy at the end of the interview because Malloy was young and on drugs and silly, so he thought Louis was just whining and bitching about being a vampire when he should have been embracing it. So he asked Louis to make him a vampire and promised that he'd be a better Lestat or Claudia, which obviously set Louis to off, and Louis went to end him. But Armand came in just in the nick of time and saved Malloy, I guess. But not without bitching about how Louis done 125 on him, how Louis calls him a boring bitch, torturing Malloy for days because he was jealous that Louis found him interesting, saving Louis from stepping in the sun to kill himself, and calling Lestat while Louis writhes in pain and telling Lestat that, but refusing to tell Louis that Lestat said he loved him, and then almost draining Malloy dry if Louis didn't stop him, and then erasing both Louis and Malloy's complete memory of the night. I just don't get it, Armand. Why are you voluntarily spending 77 years playing cleanup man and tortured second choice? I have two possible answers. One answer is that Louis already murdered his entire coven, so he had nowhere to go but with Louis. He just transferred his devotion to that whack-ass coven to Louis. Armand seems like it just needs purpose, you know what I mean? Like, he looks for purpose. And another possible answer is that Louis's love makes Armand feel like he has the one thing Lestat really wants, which is in some way both revenge and validation for Lestat hitting and quitting him like Mussy 100 years ago. I don't entirely understand Armand and why he does the things he do. It's probably something along the lines of, at the time of Claudia's trials, Armand liked Louis, but not enough to risk dying for him or saving him. But when Louis was in the crypt and Armand had already lost his role as head of the coven, and they was treating him like shit at that point, Armand no longer had much to lose, so he cared just enough about Louis to let him out of there at no risk to himself. And then once Louis done destroyed the coven, what left was there to do but go be with him. And I think 77 years later, Armand probably does love the shit out of Louis, but he had to keep up the lies and bullshit he did 77 years ago when he wasn't so deeply in love with or committed to Louis and was still looking out for himself. That's about all I can make sense of for Armand. So, it should surprise no one that in the present, when Malloy snitches on Armand to Louis and causes Louis to leave him after 77 years of devotion, when Louis leaves him in the crib with Armand and tells Armand don't kill Malloy, Armand finds a loophole and instead turns Malloy into a vampire. But listen, don't even worry about my Malloy. He took that shit like a champ, took it on the chin, and wrote Interview with the Vampire and got millions of dollars. So don't worry about him. Don't weep for Malloy. Meanwhile, all the vampires mad and talking big shit telepathically about how they want to kill Louis, who then telepathically tells them, this my address, come see me if you buy there. In conclusion, with all the love that Louis had for Claudia, thinking with his dick prevented him from being the parent she needed and got her killed before she even lived to experience her own love in life. I'm so sick. Pour one more out for my fallen sister here.
I really miss my nigga. I really miss my nigga. White people you can sing it to, just change that N to a W. Miss my wigger.